Hi there. I thought it would be fun to take a bit of a deep dive into harmony. Let's do a very, very quick overview of the scale, just so we're all starting from the same place. And we're going to start with the major scale. We're going to start with the major modes. I'm going to try and make this kind of more bite-sized than my usual videos, and try and get one key concept across in every single one. So let's kick it off. So we're going to start in C major because it's all the white notes, and in some ways that makes it easier to kind of conceptualize what you're actually thinking about. So the C major scale. When we talk about major minor scales, there are two types of minor scale, and we call them the harmonic minor and the melodic minor. Now, this is important because I'm going to refer to something else, which I'm calling the natural minor in a minute. So the harmonic minor has that very characteristic augmented interval towards the end, and the melodic minor is different on the way up and on the way down. So the one on the way down is the one with the three flats. So we have an E flat and then an A flat and a B flat. C minor, three flats. Now, that is also referred to as the natural minor. So when I refer to the natural minor, when we're talking about modes, I'm referring to the melodic scale. If you remember playing your scales for your music exams, I'm referring to the melodic minor scale on the way down. In other words, the one that is the key signature of the scale. Those three flats. Okay, now we've got that out of the way. Let's talk about the modes. So there is, if we're talking about C major, there is a mode for each note of the scale. The parent scale of these modes is C major, okay? So when we refer to the mode, we refer to the note that it starts on or the root of that mode, but that's one of the notes of the C major scale. So for example, the Ionian mode is just the major scale. So that is C. C Ionian is the same as C major. Nice and easy. So on the second step of the scale, we have the Dorian mode. So we would call this D Dorian. Its parent key is still C major, but what we're saying is that it's a Dorian scale, which I'll play you in a second, but it starts on the note D. Okay? So D Dorian tells you that it's a scale built on the second note of a major scale. In other words, C major. So it starts on D, and it has all the same notes in it. Now, this scale sounds a little bit like a minor scale, but it's the natural minor, but it has that sharpened sixth, the B natural, okay? So if we were playing our natural minor scale, that would sound like this. Because that natural minor, if you remember how we play our scales, yeah, it's the one on the way down of the melodic minor scale. So we call that the natural minor. This is not a natural minor because the sixth note of the natural minor scale of D is sharpened. I know this is a little bit hard to conceptualize sometimes. It's really just sit at the keyboard and play these things and see where the differences are. So the D Dorian scale is the scale built on the second note of a major scale, and it is like the natural minor of its root, in other words of D, but with a sharpened sixth. Okay? So that's all the white notes from D to D. I've just muted the basses because they're annoying me dropping out. Okay. So that's the Dorian. Next up is the Phrygian. Phry, Phrygian. That again, it's E to E. So we're on the third note of our parent scale, C major, and it's all the white notes, all the same notes. Now, what is this? Well, it's a natural minor scale, but with a flattened second degree. So our natural minor scale for E minor, if we were looking at that, would be, yeah? So it's only that F sharp that is different. So it's a natural minor scale with a flattened 2nd degree. We call it E phrygian because its root note is E and its parent scale is C, which is what the phrygian means. The phrygian means a modal scale built on the 3rd note of the parent scale. Okay, F to F. This is called the Lydian. Now, sounds very, very close to a major scale. The only difference is that B natural there. Now, a major scale for F would have a B flat in it. But this is... Okay, so Lydian, so it's the major scale with a sharpened 4th degree. Okay, so F major scale, but with a sharpened 4th. So the Lydian, F Lydian, tells us that it's built on the 4th note of the C major scale. Okay, mixolydian is next, which is G to G. So again, it sounds like a major scale. The only difference is that F is not an F sharp. G major would be... Okay, so this is a major scale with a flattened 7th degree. A flattened 7th degree. In other words, you flatten the F sharp to F natural. It's mixolydian, G mixolydian, which tells us, the G part tells us the root note of the scale is G, and the mixolydian part tells us it's built on the 5th degree of a major scale, which obviously is still C major. Now, next one up, Aeolian, which is, conveniently enough, is A. So A, Aeolian. That is the natural minor scale. So if you remember, your melodic minor scale would be... You sharpen those 6 and 7 on the way up, flatten them on the way down. So the natural minor is that on the way down, all the white notes, it's the natural minor scale. So A, Aeolian, tells us that it's A is the root note. Aeolian tells us that it's built on the 6th degree of the major scale. So in other words, the 6th degree of C major. So B, now this is called the Locrian, and this is the diminished one. Okay, so this is the most different of all of them. Now, compared to B major, you've got a lowered 2 and 3, and also 5, 6, and 7. So a B major scale would have the 5 sharps. Now we've taken all of those 5 sharps and flattened them. Okay? So it has a diminished quality because there are 2 minor third intervals in there. The B to the D is a minor third, and the D to the F is a minor third. And if we put an extra minor third in, which we won't, we get the very, very obvious diminished chord. Obviously, that when we're talking about this mode, that A flat there doesn't exist. The scale, the modal scale for Locrian is all the white notes. When we're in C, it's B Locrian. And the easiest way to think about this is it's build a scale on the leading note of the major scale. So if you're in C, you just drop to the leading note, the one just before there, and then just play up an octave. So if we were going, just drop that down, start it and end it on the leading note. That's nice and easy to remember if you're in some weird key like, I don't know, F sharp major. So if we want F Locrian, it's just that F sharp major scale, but started and ended on the leading note for that F sharp major. And so sorry, technically I shouldn't have said F Locrian, I should have said E sharp Locrian. In other words, the F sharp major scale has an E sharp in it. Quick diversion for our cycle of fifths. So if you start on C, if you go up in fifths, you add a sharp each time to the key signature. So G major would have 1 sharp because we've gone up a fifth. Then D, 2 sharps. A, 3 sharps. E, 4 sharps. B, 5 sharps. F sharp, 6 sharps. Okay? And then C sharp, 7 sharp. So, and if we go down a fifth each time, so to F and then to B flat and E flat, then you're adding a flat each time. So that's your cycle of fifths. So the proper name for that scale that I just played when we're talking about the parent key being F sharp major would be E sharp rather than F natural. F natural and E sharp are enharmonically the same. That's another word that we use, enharmonically the same. And if you probably, you've seen in Sibelius when you use your enharmonics, it gives you the different note spellings for notes that can be spelt in multiple different ways. And, you could say that the G, for example, is the same thing as F double sharp. So you've sharpened it twice, F to F sharp to G. Yeah. Or we can call it G. Depends what the parent key signature is. That's the thing that defines, what you do. So we've got our knowledge now of these modes, these 7 modes that are built on the major scale. Now, what use is that? Okay, so we know that they all have a certain colour, and the real kind of classic Lydian sound is using that note that's different. It's using that sharpened 4th degree. This is a key thing. If you want to make the chord that you're playing the mode, then you have to include the notes that make it that mode. Okay, it sounds obvious, but if you're playing something and you want to, you've got F, that doesn't tell you anything. If I put that B natural in, then that gives me the mode immediately. That says this is in the Lydian mode, because I can hear that tone colour. Now let's take, for example, the difference between the Dorian mode and the Aeolian mode. So Aeolian, we remember, is just the natural minor. And the Dorian mode is the natural minor with that sharpened 6th degree. So if we're playing something, how are we going to tell whether we're in the Dorian mode? Let's say we have that natural minor sound. How are we going to tell that we're in the Dorian mode as opposed to the Aeolian mode? Well, the only way to tell is to include that sharpened 6th. So if you played the D without that sharpened 6th, then that just sounds kind of natural minor-y. That could be Aeolian. It could be Aeolian. If it was Aeolian, then we would be saying that that's built on the 6th note of the scale. So we'd be talking about F major. Okay? So the way that we would make that very specifically Aeolian is by including the B flat, which is part of the F major scale. And we would do that like this. So you're really telling, you're telling the listener, do you know what? These are all about kind of tone color. So it's about getting a feeling and an emotion. Music is all about emotion, in my opinion. Certainly the music that I'm interested in. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to give a specific kind of feeling. And what does that feeling give you that's different in this mode as opposed to the other mode? So when we're doing, D Aeolian, which is in the parent key of F, we've got that B flat in there. If we're doing D Dorian, which is in the parent key of C, because it's the Dorian scale, then we've got to have that B natural in to make it different, to make it sound Dorian. And that would sound like this. So you get the idea. These are the key things. That gives you a different feeling to the version with the B flat. So these modes are a way to unlock different feelings in your music. So I think we've covered quite a good chunk of stuff for the first session. What I'd just like to point out as well, which may be obvious to some of you, but is the kind of, I'm hesitant to say major, minor, but let's call it the happy, sad feeling of each of the modes. And this is determined by the parent scale. The reason for that is you're building triads on each note of the scale. And so if we do that using the notes of the scale, then we get that thing that, is the kind of music harmony 101, well, what do the chords, the triads sound like on each degree of the scale? Well, for a major scale, you've got a major triad first, C major. You've got D minor. You've got a minor on the third degree, so that's E minor. Then two majors, F and G. Then you've got a minor for A. Then you've got B diminished, and then back to C. So these things will inevitably colour the overall tonal characteristic of the modes, but the missing notes that you don't see in the triads are the things that really give them their individual character, and those are the things that you want to hone in on if you're writing something and you want to have that feeling, you want to get that feeling. So when you've learned these characteristics, and what I would really strongly recommend that you do, and something that I am doing now, is to sit and work in every key and just play the different modes, find your way around them. Think of, mental shortcuts that you can use when you're playing, and that's on whatever instrument, to kind of short circuit, an easy way, for example, using the leading note method to get the Locrian scale. But just explore what these sound like in different keys and what the shapes look like and how they might interlock with other things. And that's something that we're going to come back to is, okay, how do we get in and out of keys using these modal scales? So one final little thought is, how do you know where you are? Let's say you're hearing this. Now you could be in C major. How do you lock it into the mode as opposed to it feeling like it's just part of a piece in C major? The answer is that it's where the gravity is. It's where you're aiming for and where you resolve to. So if you go, you're obviously leading to C major each time. But if you do it different, if you want to be in the Lydian, you want to be in F Lydian, and you want to use these chords, then it's really simple. That's just where you base yourself. I even put in a C major chord in there, but it still sounds like it's rooted in F. That's just about balance. That's just about making sure that you're weighting your piece about a certain anchor point. Okay, so that's our first kind of exploration into the major modes. So again, please leave comments below. Give me some direction in whether this is interesting, whether there's some other kind of ways of thinking about this that you have that I haven't touched on. And then we'll explore further, and we'll look at the minor modes next time and see how we build those. So hit like if you like this video. Please hit the bell so that you can see when I put the next one up. And I look forward to taking this journey into harmony, and we'll just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. But as a kind of self-taught person in many of these areas, I will look for the simplest explanation and the simplest way that, once you understand something, you don't forget it. So thanks very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.